Yo, what's going on, guys? Total Drama Cove here today, bringing you another video. But for real, I watched Noah's video about why Total Drama All-Stars was good. If you haven't seen it, link in the description if Noah isn't a lazy fuck. But I gotta say, I still don't agree with you. I respect your changing opinion on the season, but to me it's still subpar and doesn't deserve a lot, not all, but a lot of the backlash you received. While I respect the fact that you were trying to look at the bigger picture for most of it, I still felt like most of the reasons you gave were talking about how the show could have been better, or the potential it had, rather than what was actually accomplished. And so for that reason, I wanted to offer up a way to fix All-Stars, since it's so poorly received by the fan base. So I thought a lot about what the fans would want and what would make the most sense, and just kind of things that would make the season a little more liked, I guess. Keep in mind this is just my opinion, but I would like to know what you guys think about it in the comments. As a writer myself, this is the kind of stuff I like to think about, and so I hope you enjoy. Now, the first thing I want to mention is that Noah said this season will be better for 26 episodes, and while I don't disagree, I don't think it needed 26 episodes in order to be good, let alone halfway decent, so for that reason, I'm not going to talk about it. The first thing that I would like to change, however, is the cast. And no, not a complete overhaul, I'm talking just like one minor change. Since Generation 1 had 25 contestants in it, if you even want to count Blantley as a contestant, and Generation 2 had 13, it's rather illogical, I think, and unfair to have 7 compete from both in an All-Star season, especially when Gen 1 had 3 seasons compared to 1 season for Gen 2. So instead, I'm going to change it to 8 and 6. You could probably get away with 9 and 5, but there's really only need for one drastic change in my opinion, and that's replacing Sam with Owen. Owen is literally the icon of the series, and dare I say, similar enough in some senses to Sam that it wouldn't feel too different, while having a true all-star in the season. It also helps that it's known that Owen was supposed to be in over Sam anyway, but was nonetheless taken out for whatever reason. So with Owen in the lineup, we now have 3 guys and 5 girls from Gen 1, and 4 guys and 2 girls from Gen 2. So we keep the gender balance, and now Duncan and Alejandro aren't the only males from that generation. So next, I'm going to go over the elimination order and plotline changes that I have in mind. Elimination-wise, there aren't going to be that many changes, but we all know that a majority of these eliminations were outright bogus. So as far as the reasons behind their eliminations go, I'll be shaking that up. So we'll start with Lindsay. Yeah, I'm going to keep her as first boot, because what people need to realize is, as an all-star cast, there are going to be some robberies early on. It's just how it is. So while Lindsay is definitely 100% an all-star, she definitely does feel the most out of place in this season as well. Therefore, I'm totally okay with having her be the first boot, even after her earliest exit in World Tour. However, we all know that she was, ironically, dumbed down even more than her dumb, blonde, ditzy stereotype intends, which was just like an insult to her character and the growth she had, especially from action. She got so much development and was like no longer just the dumb blonde. Sure, she was ditzy here and there, but like she had much more desire and passion to compete. Also confirmed to be a scratch plotline was her breakup with Tyler, but that didn't make it into the season. And so this is how I propose we can change her elimination. Instead of making her literally forget how to push a cart like a Fruit Loop dingus, you could go a couple of different ways. Maybe instead, she has her ditzy moments while pushing the cart and gets easily distracted, thus frustrating her team. That's one way to go. Or maybe she wants to be like that episode in Akron, where she tried to take over her team. I think it was in like the War theme challenge. And her team is like, who the heck this girl thinks she is? Or maybe the breakup with Tyler was recent and she isn't over it yet, distracting her from the challenge, making her a liability and causing their loss, prompting her team to send her home. To me, any of those do her more justice than becoming dumber than her actual stereotype insists. Next up, I'm also going to keep Lightning in the same spot. To me, there really wasn't anything wrong with his elimination replacement. He was in the finale the season prior, so he's clearly a physical threat and doesn't have much in the old noggin anyway. I like that Joe was taking initiative to get him out, and I think having her succeed would set her up with the plot with Heather nicely for who gets to run the team. Along those lines, he also doesn't bring much in terms of diverse plot lines and interactions with this cast, as far as I can see anyway. So for that reason, Lightning can stay in 13th. Instead of totally wasting Joe's character, I think her mini-feud with Heather was totally a fair way to get her eliminated and receive 12th place. It could literally just be a fight for leadership. She can still regret voting Lightning out, as she realizes he would have been a number for her, which is why she wanted to ally with Gwen and Duncan. But I think ultimately Heather would get Scott, Alejandro, and Duncan on her side, getting Joe the boot for being the annoying complainer that she is. It would also prove Heather is still the manipulative biatch she is, and not be dumbed down either. Jo wouldn't be as useless of a character in this case either, but that's all I have for her really. 11th is where Sam would be, but I'm just honestly going to switch him with the guy who's replacing him, in this case Owen. Yes, Owen is an all-star, yes, he's a beast, but I just don't feel like he could get any farther in this season. Despite him having similar, if not better, placements in screen time than Duncan, Duncan has more to offer in this season with his love triangle and anti-villain subplot than Owen would, meaning that Owen would take the cake as the first iconic elimination of the season. Since this is the obstacle course challenge with the pancakes, it's also a pretty easy way to eliminate Owen. The bogus way that Sam went out just made no sense and it was questionable. But for Owen, we know the dude loves to eat, so he could just eat all the pancakes up, be too full and tired and constipated like he normally is, therefore unable to complete the obstacle course and lose it for his team. Then boom, easy vote out. It's an Owen-like way to go out and you're just not jeopardizing his character in any way. As far as the order goes, this is the first real switch I'm doing, and it's swapping Sierra with Heather. The reason being, I can't justify having Sierra going farther than Heather, especially based on who she is this season. It became quite clear that her dependence on Cody was her ultimate characteristic. In World Tour, she had a lot more going for her, but she also had Cody for her the whole entire season. This time without Cody, it became clear she was a one-dimensional character that needed Cody to survive. She literally had nothing else to offer. I don't think the Cody Cam thing was horrible, but it definitely wasn't great and lost its appeal after an episode or two. I think eliminating her one episode earlier would help with that, but maybe by then she's at least snapped out of that phase and the remaining heroes would have just had enough of her. She isn't offering much else this season, but I think it would be interesting if Mal had more of a role with Sierra's Cody Cam obsession. Mal being the one to show Sierra that Cameron was similar to Cody, except he's not really, but whatever, could help build some more credibility as a strategist. As I said earlier, I'm going to go ahead and give Heather 9th, not only to keep her placements in the single digits, but because she's an all-star caliber strategist. She's a manipulator, and there's no reason for her to find an idol, decide to hide the idol, tell Alejandro about it, accuse Chris of stealing it, and then feeling blindsided when Alejandro used it. It was just an insult to her incredibly intelligent character, especially after the treatment she got in World Tour. Give her a little more of a push, get her more involved in the Mal storyline, and build up her downfall better. After Jo left, maybe the others decided that Heather being leader was a bad idea and they all banded to get her out. Especially since by now Courtney's on the villains and Duncan on the heroes. Maybe even Mal was the one who persuaded the villains to vote her out somehow. I don't know. Anything else is better. I wouldn't be opposed to her losing the immunity idol still, but not in the same depressing way that she did in canon. I just think that there was no reason for Sierra to outlast Heather, especially when comparing the two and their plot lines for the season. The next swap that I'm going to do is Cameron before Duncan, and this one is also a no-brainer to me, because Cameron got saved from elimination twice this season, both pointlessly. There was absolutely no reason to save him, at all, either times. They all must have loved to jack off to Cameron or something, I don't know. Regardless, the first time he was saved, fine, whatever, cool. But switching him over to the villains was an awful idea. Team switches are okay when the teams don't mean anything, a la Izzy and Sierra switching a World Tour. But when the teams are made based on your roles in the seasons, aka good guy versus bad guy, team swaps don't make sense. Duncan and Courtney is an exception because it actually made a little sense, especially with the plot lines they had going, but Cameron was just because Chris felt like it or whatever. Like, come on. I really didn't like it. Just have him get eliminated here instead. I don't really care if the merge starts at 8 or 7, because now that Duncan is an 8th, you can have the merge be halfway and he'll still get it. But I just don't think Cameron needed to go any further. He can still be a victim of Mal, but his character was so dependent on Mike and Zoe anyway, that it wouldn't even make sense for him to not be a victim of Mal. So yeah, Cameron can get 8th place and nothing would really change. Duncan getting 7th is probably best for him. There's a lot of other things that changed though, like first off, I don't care that Gwen dumped him, it was just that he was being nothing but nice to her really, and then all of a sudden he does one poorly written thing and she's like, nope, bye. I like the idea of having Duncan becoming more of a hero and nicer if you will, especially if it meant keeping Gwen or getting Courtney back. But I do think more could have been done with the Courtney and Scott thing in regards to Duncan's involvement as well. His jealousy of that could have sparked his desire to get Courtney back, realizing Gwen wasn't for him anymore, and him wanting to do the one thing that got Courtney hooked on him in the first place, being, you know, like a rebel, a bad boy. Then he can start to do his crazy bad boy villain stuff, except for the whole blowing up the mansion thing. Keep that out of here. Let the boy breathe from jail for once. Instead, just have everyone realize he's becoming toxic and volatile again, and they decide to eliminate him. That way, it'll also keep the attention away from Mike and Mal. Obviously, Mal would have some sort of involvement in Duncan's tactics, like maybe he low-key feeds the ideas to Duncan on how to get his bad boy status back. but in reality it just causes mayhem, and Duncan is too oblivious to see it because he just cares about his ego. I think that would make much more sense. So I think for this next one I might get some flack on it, but hear me out. I'm going to put Gwen at 6, and it's not only because I want to stray away from the 3 guys in a row going, but because to me it just makes the most sense. Gwen and Alejandro are the only 2 left here that have been finalists. However, Alejandro clearly poses as more of a threat to Mal than Gwen does, and therefore I think it's beneficial from a writing standpoint to Mal's character to keep Alejandro along for one more day. I think putting the Mike card from Revenge of the Island on Gwen, in that this person gets a really huge story arc but then places 6th, would fit well, especially because we don't need any more time to make things worse with her and Courtney. Have them make up. Duncan's gone, they don't need to worry about him anymore, it's an easy vote, Gwen and Courtney versus the other 4. Gwen can mess up in the challenge or whatever it may be, but 6th place is totally fine for Gwen's character. It's redemption character-wise, it's redemption placement-wise, and going to the final 5, we won't know who's actually going to be eliminated next. For these reasons, I think her taking 6th place would overall be better. Now that Gwen is out, Courtney can finally develop as her own character for the remainder of the season. With Courtney and Scott still a pair and ZOEY obviously not wanting to get rid of Mike just yet, Alejandro is clearly on the outs and the next victim here. I think fits him really well, especially after our final 2 appearances in this last season, and would leave us guessing on the final 4 since none of them have reached a finale before. In Canon All-Stars, I think Alejandro is one of the lone characters to not get messed up, and therefore I'd like to keep his eliminations similar. He could be on to Mal, but instead of leaving everyone with one cheesy riddle of a line before he gets flushed, just have him outright expose Mal. Since there are only 2 episodes left anyway, it's bound to get wrapped up soon regardless. After he gets flushed, Mal can drop his facade and reveal himself to everyone, shocking the other 3. This sets up the next episode very nicely, in my opinion. I think from this point, it would be pretty hard to tell whether or not Mal would be eliminated next, or set up to make the finale. Either way, this next episode is that totally predictable double elimination, and ultimately, I think him and ZOEY go out together here. Despite this being a kids cartoon, I think it would do the whole community justice to see the reset button go away here. During the challenge, I feel like ZOEY wouldn't want to give up on Mike and would be distracted from the challenge in order to help save him, while Mal tries to do the challenge himself. Scott and Courtney are obviously going to be the only 2 to complete this challenge and make it to the finals, but since the episode is mainly about wrapping up the Mal plot, I'll focus more on them for this explanation. I think Mal can start to lose his control once Mike, inside of the brain, realizes that ZOEY still loves him and is trying to get Mike back. This could motivate Mike to try his hardest to overcome Mal, and throughout the episode, flashes of Mike appear, exciting ZOEY, but ultimately Mal regains control again, and then continues on. Despite being cheesy, I think instead of the reset button, a simple kiss from ZOEY could be all it takes for Mike to get all the motivation back to really try and take over his multiple personalities. I think ZOEY reassuring to Mike that she'll always be there for him through the tough times and all will act as some sort of therapy and make Mal lose his power when Mike climbs back up to the authority. As we know, there is no outright cure to MPD, and one of the only treatments is therapy and counseling. But Mike learning how to tame Mal and take over when he needs to could be a good lesson for him and better received than the reset button. And since this arc takes the whole episode, they clearly wouldn't finish the challenge in time and be eliminated together, but they're both just happy to have it resolved. So that leads us into the finale. Scott and Courtney are 2 characters that, not just in my opinion, but I know a lot of people would like to see reach a finale, and we all thought that All-Stars was their chance. Not only did they have a brief romance, but they were both powerhouses at one point or another. Even though Scott started off as just the comic relief for the season, to me he still deserved getting as far as he did, although I would have liked to see him get just that one episode further. As for Courtney, it's been said enough, so I don't think I have to repeat it, but we all know that Sunday Muddy Sunday did her character dirty. After the whole jealous Duncan thing, her friendship fix with Gwen, and maybe even sparking one with ZOEY, Courtney deserves to reach this finale and finally grow as a character. She could finally learn her lesson that brute force isn't all that it takes to win sometimes. As for Scott, he's definitely going to need more plot in order to justify making a finale, but he's just an all-around great character that I wouldn't even be mad at if nothing about his All-Stars story changed and made the finale. A little more sabotage, maybe a role in the Mal arc, some beef with Duncan, a role in taking out Heather and Al. Scott has a lot of potential for the season, and him coming out on top would be far better. I know someone argued that this is still sort of a couple finale, but to be honest, I don't really care if Scott and Courtney are a couple in the endgame or not. As individuals, they're great, and as a couple, I'd ship them. I think it would make more sense if they decided to just split it off by the end there and become like frenemy sort of things, because we definitely don't need a lovey-dovey finale. I could see them trying to sabotage the other in the whole finale challenge, and it would feel like another Ala Heather if they did that as a couple. I'd actually have to sit down and give it a lot more thought in order to create a better solution to how this finale would go down, but I'd probably give Courtney the Canada win because she deserves it. But with all that being said, that's basically how I'd fix All-Stars. So, that's my thoughts and opinions. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Would you like this better? I hope so, because I know I would. Thanks to Noah for having me on. Happy April Fool's Day and Happy Easter. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you have a fantastic day, week in life. Peace out.
I'm a goofy goober! You're a goofy goober! We're